The 805 Focus is brought to you in part by Nonprofit Kinect. Nonprofit Kinect provides superior leadership tools and resources so nonprofit leaders and board members can make valuable decisions to move their organization forward to a sustainable and vibrant future. More information on services online at nonprofitconnect.org.
Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cynder Sinclair with Nonprofit Kinect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits, so get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Charles Caldwell, and Charles is with Hospice of Santa Barbara. He is their Director of Strategic Advancement. Welcome, Charles.
So nice to see you, Cynder. Great to be here.
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you're here because I know you've got a big story to tell.
Mm-hmm,
So, you know, we all have heard the term hospice. And that means different things to different people. So tell us what's going on at Hospice of Santa Barbara, if you would.
Well, maybe I'll just start with that word hospice a little bit that started back probably about 5 decades ago. It started in the 70s over in England, and it was a movement that was saying that end-of-life journey is more than just medical care. It's not just the care and the tubes and the pieces that happen right there. It's something that affects the whole family, and what it really does is it affects your spirit, your emotions, the whole kind of continuum of care that's kind of around you. So we were born out of that movement with some people here locally who had gone over to England to learn a little bit about that, where the hospice movement began, and then started it in 1974 here in Santa Barbara as a partner, if you will, to kind of medical services around the end of life that works with people's emotional well-being and also works with their health, but not the medical care, but just how do they get to appointments? How do they deal with those stresses? How do they pay for this? All those pieces with it. So we do the whole wraparound care and partner with the medical organizations.
Now, how do they pay for this?
Yeah, so there's a variety of all sorts of kind of different resources that can be available.
Okay.
It really depends upon everybody's particular circumstances for their regular hospice care. For Hospice of Santa Barbara, all our services are 100% free. They're completely supported by the community. No reimbursement from insurance or from the government. So that means we have no kind of rules that are saying you can only have 2 visits. We can see them through their whole journey.
So all your visits are free.
Yep.
Of course, people can donate
Absolutely.
if they want, but they don't have to. And all of your funding comes from private donations.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, nothing is a reimbursement model. So with that, within hospice as a whole, there's a lot of restrictions that happen when you receive reimbursements from insurance or from Medicare or different pieces. So what that really makes it is that we can focus on the patient or on the person who's lost somebody without really any restrictions. They get to determine what it is they need. They get to what we call self-direct. They're able to say, this is what I need, and we work with them on that journey for as long as they need us to continue working with them. So it's amazing, really human-centered approach for them and their family.
So when these donations are tax deductible.
That's right. We're a nonprofit.
501c3.
501c3.
So a person can go on your website, push the donate now button.
That's correct.
Make
they
a
sure
donation.
Can. Absolutely. Well, that's what makes it the whole kind of piece work. We've been growing a lot over the last 5 or 6 years, from originally where we were a small organization, but frankly, there's just a lot of people who are grieving somebody who they've lost. Children who are grieving the loss of a loved parent or a grandparent, patients who have a life-threatening illness who they're struggling through, some who are trying to get better. So it might be something like breast cancer, where they're going through the treatment and trying to get better, and some who have terminal illness. So it's those donations that help make all that work and allow us to kind of grow so that we can serve all those families who in many ways are just lost in a dark tunnel and they don't know where to turn And just like all of us, where we just want somebody to step in and give us a little help, to hold our hand as we walk down the journey and have expert knowledge to help us to know what to do, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel all over again like every other family who's gone through this journey.
Yeah, so you're like a light in that dark tunnel for people.
That's exactly right. That's an image that we use a lot in this, that working in this is about light, it's about life, it's about people making the most of the time that they have. It's about meaningful connections with their family. It's not just about somberness or regrets or dark kind of thoughts. It's really about light and that journey to have the very best life you can have for as long as you can, or if you've lost somebody and you're in a dark place, how do you wander back to the light so that you can live your life again? Yeah.
That is an important service. And so it's not just individuals or even not just families, but it's when disasters happen too. In our community, we've had several, and I know that Hospice of Santa Barbara has been there to help people with that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in Santa Barbara, it almost seems like we've had more than our fair share of disasters, especially recently. But dating back over decades, from the Goleta Post Office incident to UCSB, to the Thomas disaster, to COVID and the pandemic that we're facing now, Hospice Santa Barbara is really kind of at the forefront of being able to step in as people make it through those first few days, and then where do they turn? So Hospice is right there to be able to walk with them sometimes when their lives have been shattered, or their kind of faith has been shattered in what's their place in the world and what's it all kind of mean, how they can kind of do that. And sometimes it's not something so grand. It's about a suicide that happens and then impacts a school. It might be about a shooting that happens or a sudden death of a beloved office member, where all of a sudden the whole team is just in disarray. They don't know what to make of it. So we can kind of step in that situation and help guide in a way steps forward, so that in those situations people can have a little bit of direction as how to move forward.
So if something happens like at a school, excuse me, or an office, people can reach out and call Hospice of Santa Barbara.
That's right.
Maybe go on your website.
That's exactly
maybe
right.
It tells how to do that. And
that's exactly right. They can just go to our website, hospiceofsb.org, and they can look it up, and it's easy to find our number. And we have intake specialists who are super knowledgeable. And this is all in English and Spanish. All of our services are provided in both English and Spanish. So they can call and just explain the situation a little bit. And our intake specialists will help connect them very easily to kind of whatever it is, the services. If it's something immediate that happened with a sudden death, if it's grief or an anticipated grief of something happening down the road, or a patient who's just received that terrible diagnosis of an illness that they're going to be struggling with for a while. So they can find our number there and give us a call, and we'll help get them to the right place. And if somehow it's not the right fit, if they gave us a call and it's not really along the lines of what we do, that their issue is different, our staff is so incredible, has so much knowledge of community resources, are really able to walk with them through the journey to find out what those resources are that they need.
And I know you also have all kinds of really interesting, helpful, informative brochures and little booklets about all the different aspects of grief.
Yeah, we sure do. There's all sorts of different information, some that we produced, some that we've culled through the years, that are really just kind of the best things. So people, for whatever stage that they're at, sometimes they're ready to talk to somebody, sometimes they're not ready to talk to somebody. And so that's all part of that kind of self-direction, that the patient or the client knows kind of what they need, and a trust in that process with them. And so when they've read those brochures and they're ready to come in, that's where the relationship really starts building. We have a phrase that we use called compassionate care, freely given.
Oh.
And that is the idea that our team they really form relationships with the people, and that's really the transformative element that really helps people to go. So that it's not just a list of things, here's what you're supposed to do. It's a relationship that builds, whether it's through therapy and talking with bereavement counseling, or whether it's somebody who has diagnosed, their family is in upheaval, they're figuring out how they're going to handle all this, that then our team of staff and volunteers can step in there, build that relationship with them, be that ear to listen to them, help them to understand what their choices are, give respite care to a caregiver. It's pretty amazing the breadth of services that people need and that we're able to provide within that situation.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your services. So it seems like earlier I heard you talking about help after neonatal death. So, but that's just one. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So for a lot of time during our tenure, it's I think 48 years that we've been around here in Santa Barbara. We're actually the second oldest hospice in all of the United States. We worked in kind of two areas. One is bereavement. So when somebody has lost a loved one and they find themselves in that dark place, struggling to move forward, we're able to provide counseling with them to help them on that journey to kind of come back into a different relationship to life than what they had before. And that's for children and for adults. So we see children as young as 4 years old, 5 years old, kind of around in there. And we see people that are 104 years old who've lost a spouse or they've lost an adult child. So we'll work with them in different counseling sessions as they move forward. And then we also offer a variety of support groups. So the support groups might be everything from widowers group to adult children who have lost a parent, to parents who've lost an adult child, to what you just mentioned, to parents who've lost a newborn in that journey, perinatal loss. And that's just something that, you know, moves, I know, everybody who just, it almost doesn't bear even thinking about. But we have staff who works with families who have had that loss. And then we have a support group who works with that so that people who have this particular experience in life can be around other people who've had that same experience, because grief is such an individual piece. But part of the journey is figuring out how to share it and to feel so, not quite so alone on that journey. So the support groups do incredible work. We have a suicide survivors group for the family who's left behind. About 10 or 12 during the course of the year of those support groups that happen. Yeah.
So you're there for all of it. So do you use volunteers at all?
The second kind of core program is what we call patient care services. And so we have our bereavement services, and patient care services works with patients and their families who've received a diagnosis of a life-threatening illness. Not necessarily terminal, it could be terminal, but it could be life-threatening. And so we have, all told, an organization, about 115 volunteers.
Wow, I guess you do use volunteers.
Sure do, and the large majority of those work with our patient care services. So these amazingly caring and amazingly devoted people, the longest tenure for some of our volunteers, there's 3 who started, I believe it's 38 years ago.
Golly.
For 38 years, they've consistently sat at bedsides, held hands, done all sorts of different things, truly inspirational figures. But the volunteers can help with those patients and their families with all sorts of things, from housework around the house to grocery shopping to, let's say somebody is alone and all they have is their beloved pet that they love so much, a dog, let's say. And this is a true story. And the person is going through chemotherapy and they're weakened, but they're at home. And they can't take care of their dog. Because they can't get out of bed on a regular basis. They can't take that dog for a walk. So our volunteers will go in and 2 times a day will take that dog for a walk out there, because that dog is the closest relationship that that person has, that they've filled with love, and it's so important for their journey of trying to get better.
Sure.
And so otherwise they'd have to let go of their dog. And so that's what I mean. It's like, what is that situation? What do they need? Do they need transportation to medical appointments? All of a sudden you're saying, here's the 16 things you should do and all the appointments. How should I get there? And so our team of staff and sometimes volunteers will take them to their medical appointments, and then the staff will translate for them. And it's really just this amazing wraparound full service.
That's great. So let's just say somebody's watching this and they say, oh, that sounds like something I'd like to volunteer for. They can go on your website and maybe find out how to do that, or different kind. Do you do any training for people who?
Yeah, we have a pretty robust training, because the depth of this work, that's really important that people gain some real skills. So we have training. Oftentimes it will happen twice a year. It kind of depends upon what the needs are, because we want to make sure that each volunteer is kind of fully utilized and feels important and feels connected to the work that they're doing. So we have about an 18-hour training, and then we have ongoing, robust kind of support group training with them, where there'll be this wonderful speakers that come in. They get to gather together, share the stories. After visits, they talk with staff to kind of unburden the journey that they were just on with that patient or that family. So there's a tremendous amount of support for them, and yeah, they just do amazing work. So they can go to the website and once again, just give a call to our main number, and our intake will help steer them in the right direction.
Well, when you said speakers, that reminded me of some lemonade that you folks made out of all these COVID lemons. And is it what's the name of that speaker series that you have online?
We call it the Illuminate speaker
Illuminate,
series.
yeah. It's really great, and not only was it helpful during the pandemic time, but you're continuing it.
That's right.
And it's really great.
Exactly. Well, it really started where, right when the pandemic hit, we had our staff who has a lot of experience, because we were all experiencing forms of kind of collective grief, trauma, those issues. So it started with our staff doing some different videos, writing articles about how people could deal with their stress, how they could cope with that collective grief, how you can kind of keep going, or how to kind of balance that. And as that went on, we kind of had the idea, because all of a sudden we had this ability to create these videos that happen. And that led to the thought, we're now operating in a virtual environment that in the past we had had some large speakers around end-of-life topics come to Santa Barbara, fill up a local theater where people were able to come. We said, I wonder if we can get them to come and appear on a Zoom webinar, and it was a hit smash. We were able to have speakers that we would never normally be able to have: meditation experts, doctors, palliative care doctors, people who understand grief deeply, people who understand emotional intelligence. And the idea was, and we're Hospice of Santa Barbara, working with grief and trauma and those issues. That's just an extension of what we're all kind of going through. So these speakers were able to come in once a month and deliver a talk, and we'd have panel members from the community who would kind of focus some questions back with them. You can also find this on our website as well, because we have speakers coming up. Our next one is Amanda Klutz, who is very famous right now. She unfortunately lost her husband at the beginning of the pandemic, who is a Broadway, well-known person in Broadway. And then a variety of different wonderful speakers that are coming that can help with different aspects of how we're making it through this time.
Gosh, Charles. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, we only have about a minute left, but here's what's going through my mind. Well, I know that you guys are going into Carpinteria too, and I also know about the maybe the Mibos. So you're just all over the place. So in our last 1 minute, what do you want to tell us?
Yeah, just that Hospice Santa Barbara has just continued to kind of grow and partner with different organizations. So Mi Vida Mi Voz is a wonderful collaboration that we've led for the last few years that's been able to provide vital information in Spanish to the community around the issues that they need most and in timely fashion so they get it when they need it. And then Carpinteria is a perfect example of a collaboration of local leaders, organizations where we're able to take our services, make them more available in Carpinteria with an initiative called Compassionate Care of Carpinteria so that we can serve all the people in Carpinteria as well.
Charles, wow, you are doing incredible work there at Hospice.
Thank you.
You and your team. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing that's touching the lives of so many people, and thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much. It truly is a humbling journey for us and one that fills us with gratitude as we're able to work with the community and be part of this community. Thank you for having us, Cynder, on the show.
And thanks for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.